Psychedelics today. This is Joe Moore, joined by Kyle Buller. How you doing today, Kyle?
Pretty good, Joe. How are you?
Lovely. We have a dream team guest set today. Both Stan and Brigitte Grof. Finally, get Stan on.
Been on our list.
And, yeah, right. It's, like, Stan is a big part of the reason why we started this whole Psychedelics Today project, and it's a little ridiculous we took this long. Maybe we were shy. Maybe, we just wanted to make sure we did a good job. But just really thankful we were able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Kyle, can you give us a little bit of rundown of Stan's bio for those who don't know? Because there are somehow people who don't know Stan's work yet.
Yeah, so Stan has been a pioneer in LSD research, really since the beginning, since the 50s and 60s. So, pioneer in LSD research. When he came over to America, continued to do some psychedelic research over here. And then when the counterculture hit and the war on drugs started to happen, ban on, psychedelic research, Stan found himself over at Esalen and then also developed holotropic breathwork with his previous wife, Christina Grof, at the time. As Joe mentioned, huge influence in our world. And it's just been a great honor to finally get him on the show.
Yeah, and thank you to Synergetic Press for helping us with this. They actually just released a book honoring Stan, written or edited by Sean Kelly and Rick Tarnas, both quite influenced by Stan. Rick and Stan have a very long-standing relationship. Kyle, do you have the book there?
I do.
Beautiful cover, painted by Stan Phoenix. Psyche Unbound. It's a collection of essays. You can listen to a whole podcast I did with Rick Tarnas and Sean Kelly about this a few episodes back. So thank you to Synergetic Press. Thank you to Stan and Brigitte. I'm really excited about this episode, and I hope we can do more with both of them in the future and just continue to support this Grof legacy. Kyle, I guess there was some news today. I don't know if it's public, but
it might not
we
be.
now have some sort of...
I shouldn't say it.
Well, we'll let you know about it in the future, everybody. But there's some great optimistic stuff coming, and really excited about being able to just continue supporting Stan's legacy, holotropic breathwork and beyond. With a lowercase h because of trademark issues. So, it's quite the situation to us, for us to have been able to record with these two and. Endlessly psyched to have been able to pull it off, and thank you both. And this idea of merging traditional psychiatry with maybe indigenous wisdom traditions. Stan was a big part of that movement for decades and decades. That is, in large part, I can't say in large part, a big portion of what transpersonal psychology was about. We have all these knowledge systems and practices and stories, right? And how do we integrate that? Kyle, wasn't transpersonal psychology your undergrad?
It was, yeah. It kind of changed a little bit to integral psychology. The academic advisor over there really got into Wilbur, but I was trying to keep my transpersonal Grofian roots alive, and that was primarily my focus.
Right. It's funny, and nobody really talks about that Wilbur Grof beef, but we should do a thing on that eventually. Fascinating topic. Just really thankful and really excited. I think people just really need to understand these stories and this talk track, and things can go in a really positive direction from here. Yeah. Experience matters.
I was listening to
cool
your interview with Sean and Rick recently, and I'm just amazed by how many people really kind of entered into this space through Stan's work. Thinking back to a lot of the folks that we've interviewed over the years, I think the other person that comes to mind, like Robin Carhart Harris and a few others, that was really their entry point. I think maybe stumbling across realms of the human unconscious, and then that kind of got them more interested in this field. So, I think Stan has played a very, very large influence with people getting interested and involved in this space. So thank you, Stan, for your years and years of work. Decades.
Our decades and decades. And our teacher, Lenny, regularly says that Stan will likely be remembered as the third great force in psychology. Freud, Jung, Grof. Grof is a sort of synthesis and transcendent function of sorts. I believe this is the case. So, yeah, I hope you all buy this book, Psyche Unbound, buy all Stan's other books, and just really try to dig in and get it, because there's a lot of value here. And I've heard it said that these theories and frameworks that Stan helped us with are in some senses decades ahead of the current medical establishment. So if we can figure out how to use those, transcend and include, like, we're going to be doing really well in 6, 7, 8 years in psychology and psychotherapy, psychiatry as well. So yeah. All right, I think that's it for the intro. Yeah, we'll see you all on the other side. Thanks for tuning in. Hi everybody, Joe Moore here, Psychedelics Today. We are very excited to bring you the Grofs. Stan, I hope you could open a little bit and just let us know a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah, these days I always like to start whenever we are doing something, because I have to explain something to you and also to the publicum.
Audience.
Audience, yeah. But 3 years ago, I had a stroke, which was quite bad, but it was not a paralysis. No problems with my arms, hands. Also, my
your mind is good.
Mine is not assault, but I got very, very bad damage with my speech centers, and so this time when I'm doing it, I'm bringing my sweetheart here, Brigitte. We know each other for over
35 years.
3.5 years.
No, 35. It's a problem with the numbers. 35 years.
35 years. And now we have been married
almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years, yeah. So she always is here, and she basically knows a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. So if I have problems, with some words, she will help us. I just would say a few words about her. She all this time, this 35 years, she was working with holotropic breathwork. Actually, at the beginning, for a year in SLN, before even have any formal training, but there was with Christina, we were having a lot of these workshops in SLN, both shorters and all the month-longs. And so she was there every time, and she's probably the psychonaut. As young, she was
a dinosaur.
Today she's like a dinosaur, holotropic dinosaur.
Well, that's beautiful.
Now we'll talk as we go a little further. Now we have involved in new training. In the whole world, so she was basically the lion share of this new training. Yeah.
Amazing. So, how has your recovery been? Slow? Have you found some progress?
Well, I'm very surprised how much it went back, if I realize where it began. I was actually not supposed to have a stroke. It happened to my friends in California. I was supposed to have a back operation. And I didn't. They didn't take away the
But they took away the blood thinners,
blood thinners,
but
you know,
didn't give any
for asking
substitute.
for seven
Ooh,
days.
geez.
And so before I got to the operation hall,
Mhm.
I basically had already a stroke.
Mm.
Mm.
Now it happened in our home, in our house. We were having dinner and very, very pleasant, you know. And suddenly I started saying very, very funny.
Talking very funny.
And Brigitte thought that it was just a joke.
Mm.
And then in a while she found out that it was something really serious,
Mm.
and actually called a friend, Jack Cornfield, you know. And when she told what is happening, she said, just go immediately to the emergency, you know.
Because you didn't want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Doctors, you know.
Anyway, so basically, so we got there, and during that time, I still remained very conscious or half conscious with Brigitte, and was reaching toward her and saying, you know, do it together, or
Together. And I love
stay
you.
together, yeah.
And together.
Mm.
I wanted to stay together, and also wanted down, and I saw that I didn't finish a lot of my legacies, you know. There are people fighting for holotropic breathwork, you know,
Trademark.
for trademark in America, and also in Europe, you know, in Austria, in England, and I didn't want to really live in that kind of a situation.
Mm.
And I was in that situation where I still had some kind of possibility of coming back, you know, rather than staying. A lot of people, thanatology, they talk about it. So then, you know, I returned back, and then you were asking what kind of state I was. I was looking around the window, and there were cars, and I had no time what it was. I didn't know what cars were like. Parking was there also. And it took for quite a while when I started knowing what was happening, but I was not able to find the names names for it. And at one point, you know, I was there were nurses, and I started talking with different languages and asking me how, you know, how I was born and so on, when I was born, and I said correctly. But it was not in English, and it was one of them was German, for example, and so some people realized that it was okay. And so on top of what happened, you know, with this English, I also had quite a few other languages, and they are still until now. It's quite not completely separated, you know.
And
so
there was this one story that the Harvard panel. You want to tell that one?
Yeah. I was supposed to go to Harvard, you know, with several other people with psychedelic
Rick Doblin,
people, Rick Doblin and Michael.
Mithoefer?
Pollan.
Oh, Michael Pollan, yeah,
Pollan.
Michael Pollan, right. This was the real thing, you know. And then
this happened, you know, this day before it. And so we were watching it, and at the same time, there was a girl who was coming here and was
for the rehab. for the speech training,
speech training, you know.
And also you had a computer program, right?
And
that would say a sentence, and you have to repeat the sentence correctly, and then you would.
And that was coming at it. Monkeys eat bananas. And it was so unbelievable when we sort of thought I was supposed to be Harvard, and I'm struggling with this kind of a monkeys are eating with.
We were cracking up. Yeah.
And actually, when I was listening to it, it started sort of getting to me, and almost was like a Zen,
like a koan,
you know. Yeah. Monkeys eat bananas. So this is, then it continues for quite a while. I couldn't write, and then for a certain point, I finally got writing on internet, on computer, yeah, and then I started actually being able to actually find some new articles, but very slowly, and there was no way for me of giving lectures or giving to a seminar or anything like that.
But
and where it was very interesting, where the worst problem was writing with a pencil or a pen, basically with just your hand. And I now hear that actually children have problems now in the school because they now know computer, but they have problems when they have to. So that was interesting. That the computer was very easy, but.
But I have to say that the most important thing is that Stan has just stayed in a very good mood in all this. I mean, people would get really aggressive or grumpy, or of course things are more challenging and not as easy as they were. But he's just.
We were jumping with the monkeys there. Just cracked up,
Yeah, we haven't lost our humor in all this, and so
that's good. Oh, well, thank you
actually,
for sharing.
When they put me out, in the park.
Yes,
it was an unbelievable and mystical experience.
He had a rebirth. I mean, he was like, the colors are so bright, everything is so bright. It was like on acid.
More than any
That was
experiences with psychedelics, yeah.
And but what I also wanted to add briefly is that if you look at the whole picture, we were really lucky because before we had just completed over a year of teleseminars with Shift Network, the way of the psychonaut and the psychology of the future. So all his knowledge is all recorded in video, the talks and the pictures he's showing, and then we had all the material, and then I said, well, why don't you make it an encyclopedia with all your knowledge? And so that's how the Psychonaut the book was made, because they wanted a very long course of him for every, they wanted for every. At first it was 7 seminars, and then it was 24 every week for an hour and a half, and then soon he started to regret that he said yes, because he was like, what am I going to say, And the good news is that actually Stan left the comfort zone, and he was digging in all his knowledge. We talked a lot. What else could he say? And so there's all these things that have never been published before, and so that's why we made this encyclopedia. So it's all there, and that was And he also had a really great interview with Tim Ferriss just 3 days before the stroke, which was, I think, the best interview I've ever heard.
It's really good.
It's really good. It's 3 hours, and I was in the room with him, when they did it, and
unfortunately didn't get the video for it.
Yeah, but it's such an incredible interview, and then
it was,
all this was before that stroke, and the book was basically also the film, The Way of the Psychonaut, the documentary about Stan's life, also nice, really great.
That was wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, it was not, the things were not completed, but they were completed but not finished. It still needed some work.
But I didn't have, when I had a stroke, I did not have anything that I had to talk in
right.
in the
You
film.
didn't have to talk.
We had to work all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I finished everything that I was supposed to say.
So that's the good news, it's all there and it's all available, and that's so important, I think, because so.
Absolutely. Yeah, really glad you're decided to come back and continue this work. So thank you. I guess we'll shift gears a little bit and ask some other questions. So as psychedelics start to gain more legitimate attention in both research and clinical areas, what areas of psychedelics are you most excited about?
Yeah, of course, the fact that after 4 years,
40 years,
40 years that there was a completely darkness, like basically nothing was happening unless people who were able to do it underground, but when this happened, when it was stopped, basically the situation was great. We, for example, when I was in Prague, we were able to give LSD and psilocybin to psychologists, mostly psychologists, psychiatrists, and had a situation where they had to have 5 large dosages, and then before get their own substances, they also had to have 30 sessions with clients with a supervision, and after that they could do it. Now we were also working the last situation that was happening in Baltimore, and we actually allowed to have our own sessions, actually, because in a way it was necessary, but they brought psychologists who never ever had any psychedelics, had to check before and afterwards, because the NMH, they felt that we have sort of our virgin is kind of that we cannot explain, or we were supposed to the results, what the results were, that we were not once we had a psychedelic sessions,
okay,
that we're not
you were not neutral enough.
We're not neutral enough.
Right.
So it's interesting that we who were having sessions, we not only were allowed, but we basically felt that we had to have, because otherwise, if you don't have your own experiences, you had no idea what is happening. Psychology, psychiatry doesn't help you with it, particularly today's psychology. And so we were in that kind of situation. Now, when this Renaissance came, which was an incredible thing, with basically with Rick Doblin and his team, with amazing thing. I actually was with Rick for a month in Israel, and I then understood what he had done. I mean, he had an hour during that month. He was, always with psychologists, psychiatrists, biologists, politics, and so on. So when suddenly this amazing things happen, we are almost a little afraid that it's going too fast. Now there are people who want to have experiences with clients, but they are not allowed to have their own experiences themselves, which is a very bad situation. So in a strange way, I was talking about how situation was happening before these 40 years. Now, what's happening at this point, many people are just beginning from scratch, as if nothing happened before. For example, maybe 55 years ago, I had also in Amsterdam, I had the experience, conference in which I'm talking about the four matrices, so this is 55 years. And now this is still not accepted in official psychiatry and psychology. So this will take quite a while before they realize that we need a completely different cartography for psychology and psychiatry. So what I would like to do myself, of course, the first thing that people can have, people who do work with patients, that they have to have their own personal experiences. But then the next should be that it's not going to be just for psychiatry, for
professionals,
for medicine, for
therapists,
patients. We had to expand it. For example, we know how amazing effect on creativity is in. So this should be next situation. You don't have to be, it's just ill,
Yeah.
The other thing, it should be for spirituality. This is another thing. Artists, and so on. And I hope that we should go further when people who would like to have these experiences, they would go into centers all around the world, when they go, and they can be treated by people who are experienced, and they gain material for that we can develop further, rather than having to read somewhere in the streets, And again, in the proper dosages, and so I believe it could be for going to alter, going to like for trips, not trips, psychedelic trips, but
journey,
going to the
Amazon or to the jungle.
Well, I mean, just in everyday life, to go swimming, to go for trips,
hikes,
hiking, and stuff like that, with those small dosages. Once people develop, they know how to do it, what you take and what dosages you can under certain circumstances.
I love it.
So when I had the last day was Albert Hoffman, which was last time I saw him in 4 weeks before death. And we were talking about the future, and of course he wanted, that his children, as LSD and psilocybin, that would be integrated somehow in society. And he believed that it could be something like what was happening in ancient Greece, the Elysia, Elysia, no, New Lyceum. And so we were kind of fantasizing about it, and of course it looks like in that what the situation was. There was a really just a utopia, but now, it depends how it's going to be. If somebody doesn't screw it up, we might be moving in that same direction
of screwing it up.
Just no. To Aloysius, he means
well,
it's both possible, as we know, But so it's really important that a lot of people get a lot of training how to sit for other people, and that's also one of the goals of our new training, the Grof Legacy training that we created. It's we're doing teaching the breathwork, but also Stan's breathwork, but also eventually want to train psychedelic sitters. So because that's so important. I mean, that's the biggest danger I see, that that's just going so fast and people don't have a clue what they're doing with others, and that's such a potent medicine. So that you should have somebody with you who knows how to help you with this. So that's our passion.
These companies are getting enormous amount of money, and it should be also, they should have also the duty somehow to teach people how they use these substances, because this is not aspirin,
it's not a pill you take and the depression is gone. This is about process, as you know.
Or even just because you're a psychiatrist or because a psychologist doesn't mean that you have very equipped for working with psychedelics,
No.
So
there's a big need for that.
Agreed.
Otherwise, it seems again that is very dangerous. Substances are very dangerous, which of course they are not if they are properly handled.
You like to use the example of the knife, right? The knife you can use for operation and for healing people, saving lives. You can cut your food or you can kill somebody with it. So the proper use is in the right setting, and the experience of the sitters is really crucial.
We had, years, of course, we had a conference when there was Humphrey Osmond, and we were talking about, is LSD really a devil's drug or is it a panacea, And he said, well, it really depends how it is.
How you use it.
If you look at knife, there's something different when it's in the hand of a surgeon, or it is for somebody killing people in a lane in New York City somewhere, and also a different kind of situation for a housewife, who can use certainly.
For cooking,
to use it for
chopping
foods and so on, and it is also different if the science is in the hands of an artist who can do very wonderful things with it.
So I would like to jump into birth perinatal matrices. I'm kind of curious if there have been any developments in birth perinatal matrices, generally speaking.
You would be probably surprised that this is the major changes happened there. When I was working with LSD, I started from pharmacology, and then to clinics to psychiatry, and first small dosages and then larger dosages. So with this, when I was working with lower dosages, I developed these coexistence, different stages of when you must know with you and when you talk about holotropic breathwork and so on. And then getting the sense of the stages, was very much almost like one of my patients were calling that it's like a peeling the onion, saying all the levels that you are exploring in it. And this was the situation where we got into the matrices. Now, at this point, I was very excited because I had the sense that you could understand a lot of things that psychiatry never could understand. When you have the 4 stages there, the first matrix is related to paradise or heaven, and then the second one, the 2 to the 1, the first to the second, like loss of paradise, and then you have the third matrix, the second matrix, which is like a hell, and then the next one, purgatory, and the next one, is again return to heaven and so on. Now, initially, it makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of sense that, for example, the second and the third matrix makes a lot of sense to understand violence in war and in murder and so on. So for a while, I was really quite excited about it. And then at a certain point, I found out that actually you cannot explain these what you find in these matrices that they can actually explain from the matrices. For example, you can see that when you do the second and the third matrix, you can actually see the fetus in images. You can see the amnion. You can see things that the fetus cannot really see. This only after the fourth matrices, when the fetus is out, then you can actually see the fetus. But before we started seeing the fetus in the womb and in the stages of the second and the third. So, for example, you would see the person being in the first matrix, the fetus having a sort of beautiful experiences, but at the same time, suddenly you see that it's also a connection to being in the ocean, or is the experience of being in the universe and so on, or suddenly is combined with this first matrix with some experiences from Hawaii, people having wonderful times, being fun and singing in Hawaii and something like this. And I realized that cannot be explained from the matrices themselves. And then I moved beyond these matrices to what I call the transpersonal experiences. But then came a whole other level, which was mythological images. You can have transpersonal experiences that have nothing to do with mythology. You can, for example, identify with animals, with a leopard or the lion or whale or whatever. And that the mythology is a whole other level. And then, with Rick Tarnas, we had then realized that ultimately what it is about, it's the archetypes. And that are connected to archetype astrology. You see, so then what Brigitte created for my birthday, a new book, very secretly. She did it for, I think, for 7 months.
7 weeks.
7 weeks. Sorry. And when I had the birthday, I came up from upstairs, from the bed, and for breakfast. And there was a little booklet, it was all covered, you know. And they said, "Oh, there's a little first your gift for your birthday," and then showed me this book, which I just couldn't believe. The first one was shown in
German.
In German, because it was published in Switzerland. But now we have some other people who are translating. So we get one that she was showing was French, and now it's coming in America.
In English,
So
working on it.
So
you want to see what's in there
yeah.
in the book. You have to tell them what's inside.
In this book, you know, I was the only situation where I was able to start really from believing that it was all about astrology, about pharmacology, you know.
We did I did an interview with Stan, and you know, I recorded that and we wrote it down, and he really wanted this to be published. That was his dream. And so I thought, well, I'll do it for his birthday as a surprise, and also combined it with the foreword he had made for Albert Hoffman's LSD, My Problem Child, because he really wanted that together. So I put it together and put in a lot of birthday wishes from his friends and co-travelers, and you know, like Rick Tarnas, Rick Dobling, Jack Cornfield, brother David, Rupert Sheldrake, Fridtjof Capra, and so on, his brother. And so a picture gallery in the middle with nice photos, and then at the end the birthday wishes from the people from the countries. So each country will have their own people in the back to get the birthday wishes, right?
So basically, this was the only situation where I could see how the whole situation went and what LSD is actually about. Because you see, once you get beyond the matrices, there is no real material substrate for the images that we have. It's basically just consciousness. And the question is how far the consciousness goes further back. Maybe it's about matrices themselves, and maybe in what we have experiences in postnatal life, you know, maybe it's primarily just consciousness.
Right. Hearing you kind of talk about this and thinking about astrology, mythology, transpersonal psychology in the context of psychedelics, is there a particular field that you're excited about?
Well, you know, we have now many experiences with Rick Tarnas when we were working at CIS and in other places all the way to Europe and so on. And I believe that if psychiatry goes in the right direction, not where it is going now, that it ultimately should be done with non-ordinary states of consciousness, not necessarily just psychedelics, but it could be breathwork, or it could be working with people who have spontaneous experiences in SEN, you know, the
spiritual emergencies,
and so on. So working with non-ordinary states, because some of the deeper sources, they are not reached with verbal talking, and just suppressing symptoms, you know, is very bad psychiatry. And so I believe it's going to be, if it go in the right direction, that it's going to be work with non-ordinary states of consciousness and use it with like a archetypal astrology. Use it as a handbook or if it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it kind of bleeds into the next question that we had here. So you have a book titled The Psychology of the Future. So from your perspective, what does the psychology of the future look like, and what does psychiatry need to do to get there?
Well, the first thing that we need a very different cartography. You know, Freud was attacked by all kinds of directions, but he bought this thing about the newborn. The newborn, you know, is a tabula rasa, yeah.
It's kind of, it's so amazing, you know. We were talking about this. If you look at this with the logic, yeah, you have this birth struggle where you almost die for, you know, 20 to 30 hours possibly, and you know, they just come out you're blue and everything, and then, but that doesn't matter at all, yeah. And once you pop out, what the mother looks at you, this can, you know, give direction to your whole life. This is so important. But why would you not notice what happened before? And then suddenly you come out and you notice your mother looks, and you even don't see anything. But it's so absurd, you know, why they wouldn't feel anything before, and they still, I think they still do it, that they circumcise babies without anesthesia and shit like that, because they think they don't feel anything. Or I don't know. It's crazy. But this switch from that birth that doesn't matter, and then the meaningful immediately starts once you're out. You know, so it's totally irrational, actually. I think.
You know, so the most important understanding of what's about psychology is coming from beyond the newborn. It goes to birth, and then it goes to transpersonal experiences, you know. So the most important way of understanding what things are about in psychology, they have to become from a very expanded kind of cartography. You don't understand very much just from postnatal experiences. And the same hand, you would have much better possibility of healing rather than just doing something postnatal. Because if the source is coming from perinatal matrices, you cannot talk it out. You have to really have experiences in and on ordinary states of consciousness.
Yeah.
And we have very, very poor psychiatry if we don't include these very important levels, you know. You cannot also understand what is ritual, spiritual experiences, you know. We don't also really understand why humanity is so violent, actually violent beyond humans. Eric Fromm, you know, wrote
Eric Fromm.
Eric Fromm, yeah. He wrote a book, the anatomy of human destructiveness.
Mm-hmm.
It's explaining that, you know, that people are really not as animals are really not as violent as
Humans.
People are, you know. Most of it is for food, or it could be for a fight for sex or for maybe territory, but totally unnecessary, violence that we see in our world is unbelievable. So we have to understand that there is no explanation for it, either in biology or in current psychiatry.
Psychology as well.
You really have to go to the matrices, and you have to go to transpersonal experiences.
Yeah, thank you. I think having more leaders in mental health, having more experiences, I think would be good. Breathwork is a great place to start if they're afraid.
We're actually, what is really nice in our new training, we get a lot of connection with academia, connection with universities, with professionals. I mean, everybody's welcome, but we're also happy to see this go in these areas. It could be taught at universities or it's important that many therapists and doctors come and make this experience, as you say, and they bring it into their world.
All right. So next question here. How do you see breathwork evolving and its role in mental health and well-being?
Well, what's very exciting about holotropic breathwork is that you get access to non-ordinary states of consciousness without chemistry, and so it's conceivable that it would be really integrating into society, that you could start actually from school somewhere if you want. Definitely, at least in rites of passage, in all the other countries in pre-industrial. They all had a rites of passage, very, very important. And so that would be something that could be integrated into family, integrated into school.
Society.
Society,
But we said that, if people would do breath work instead of in the church, they could have good results on Sundays,
Yeah.
Instead of sitting on hard benches. I think get mattresses in the churches and get breath work going.
Bringing it into school is possible, into education. If it comes instead of the explanation with it, and that comes with it. You would also should have a very different kind of a school, where would be not talking a lot about history, about violence. When all the history just talks about the worst people. Like in the 20th century, you would have Stalin and Mussolini, Hitler. People don't hear about Buddha, about
Mother Teresa.
Yeah. So this could really come with it, because you need to bring that to the holotropic breathwork. You have to bring spirituality into and the kind of history that is related to not to violence, but it's related to spirituality.
Yeah.
You want to say something about?
So, well, this in itself, I believe that would be much easier even to do this Elysium, because that once you could do it with breathing, some of the problems go away from many people. Maybe some of the parents and so on. If with the body work, it becomes more like magnesium, like amnesium. Like what people do working for
gymnasium.
There's different languages. Gymnasium, okay. So if you can go into the bodywork itself, it's absolutely essential, to do bodywork, both with psychedelics and with holotropic breathwork, and people who work with spontaneous experiences.
It's actually, you discovered the body work in psychedelic sessions, didn't you?
Yeah, well, the people usually ask, probably the most question that people are asking when we do for breath work and stuff like that. How did you made it? Where it came from, And what was actually happening that when I was working with LSD and psilocybin and so on, we never knew exactly how it ends. Sometimes people have a wonderful experience, very much like what happened to Albert Hoffman, who have difficult experience in it, but the end, it was great. Just their rebirth experience, and he the feeling of this is a new beginning of his world and so on. So sometimes we had also that some of the experiences ended up in a great place, but it was not always the same. Sometimes you open up something new, and usually the ending of the experience depends on what the periods is going to be afterwards. And what happened to me, that the patients actually helped me. One of these patients were coming from an LSD experience, and the drug was already wearing off, and he was really in bad place. He was so tense. He was so angry, almost on the edge of expressing. And I came to him, and he said, "Listen, could you take your finger, put it on my shoulder, and really push on it hard? I feel that it could help." And I was sort of pushing it, and more. I said, not enough more. And at this point, I already, couldn't almost pushed anymore. And then at a certain point, he started screaming. He started coughing. And we made maybe not more than 20 minutes with this kind of very powerful, swearing, roaring and coughing, and felt in a great place, completely relaxed. So I say, wow, this is really interesting. And then about 2 weeks later, there was a female patient who also was coming down, and the substance was already fading off. And he was in a terrible place. He was nauseated, and pain in the belly, in the stomach. And so I said, well, where is it? And like a doctor, I would sort of poke it to a little poking it. And then this unbelievable projectile vomiting came, just missing me, Bart, from my
missing your head. Barely.
And then we did it twice more, and again, within a very short time, she was fine. And then I got the idea, there is something that we can actually do. We don't have to just do what we do before. What we did is to wait for 10 days, which is reftarim,
Reference?
No.
I don't know either.
It's refractory. This is the time during which you don't have the same kind of response to LSD. You have to wait until somehow everything is surging up, that you can again have a full experience. So we were waiting and then give another session and hope that it end up better. And at this point I said, what is this something in your body and in discomfort, and then it was, I said, why don't you just accentuate it,
Tense it out more,
and
more.
just let out whatever was happening, just let it come out. And then I started doing systematically, and much better resolution of the sessions. And then again, what came as a help to me, there were a couple of the patients, but both of them women, as they were doing this, they started breathing
spontaneously,
like what Muktananda was doing, in Bastrika.
Siddha yoga, yogic breathing.
And we used to do it with Siddha yoga. We did for maybe 10 minutes before, and then do the meditation. And so they did this spontaneously, and suddenly they told me, it's amazing, as I started breathing, I was suddenly back fully in the experience. It was already coming out, and suddenly it's like very fully in the experience. And then I realized that with the fasting breathing that can bring material from the unconscious. And then when I came to SLN, where basically I was doing workshops where I was talking about what we experienced is what we did in Prague and what we did in Baltimore and so on, and I had some wonderful pictures and everything and showing it to people, and talking, we should need a transpersonal psychology and stuff like, and they say it's all great, but can't we have some experience? Seeing all these fantastic experiences, and it's not happening, And don't you have a stash there somewhere? Yes, sorry, I think people at SLN would not be very happy about it. And then I started thinking, what can we do? Because immediately they wanted some experience. And then see these things that I just told you when came to my mind, and said, maybe we can start doing this. And so we started doing it. Basically doing it with people in a circle that they were doing a little breathing, and we were using music, which you were of course using in psychedelic experiences. And then came a situation where I was working in our garden, leaving some kind of big powerful piece of wood, and turned off my back, and I couldn't imagine that I would come close to people and do body work, So we had like 36 people coming from all over the world. In SLN, people are coming from Asia, they're coming from Europe, they're coming from South America, and so on. And so we had 46 people now coming from all over the world. What are we doing? In the catalog, there was breath breathing. It's a great experience. And so we were thinking about it and said, why don't we hook them up, and one of them is going to breathe and the other one just really be there. And we walk around and just be facilitate and explain, telling people what to do and so on. And that experience happened such that it was so amazing that we never did it elsewhere. It's always doing it in a group, one to one, and people. First of all, they had experiences, rather than watching, and at the same that they say themselves that how much they got out of being sitting, and being there for 2, 3 hours in a very focused attention with another person was amazing, and they had the feeling that they heard quite a bit themselves, that they held,
Well, this is an important part. Is the support that like somebody. I mean, you're all nodding because you know how true it is. It's such a privilege that somebody's just there for you, and you don't have to do anything for them. You can just and you switch the role, so it's totally fair. And I mean, so many people have abandonment issues, and so it's really part of the healing. That's why we say don't do this alone and don't do any online breath work, which has been a little bit of a drag in this crisis, because you could just be so re-traumatized and you can get into such difficult places. So having somebody there who knows, how to deal with it, or also is there for you is just absolutely necessary. It's just a total must, so part of the healing.
And then I also find something that is absolutely essential for the breath work, and that is the psyche has the intelligence. You see, otherwise, what we do, we try to create some kind of go with some kind of school with a Freud or whatever it's going to be, and trying to follow that school. Whereas we found out that if you breathe, actually the best breathing, the best experiences come up that a school can never bring you.
Yeah, that it's not.
And
coming
sometimes
from the head.
you don't believe that it's something like could happen, and yet
it's not coming from the head, it's coming from the inner healing intelligence. Also with the psychedelics, of course, it's best not to have a plan, because you would miss the creativity that's in there. I mean, so you could never imagine, and the information, we only mostly use our heads, which is not the whole story, but learning to listen to the inner voice, the inner healing, following the energy, the Shakti, is just such a pleasure, and makes the picture complete, right? So that's what this work is teaching, that you activate the psyche unspecifically, and then you wait what comes out of it, so it's a kind of listening kind of attitude. And
we work with very large groups, 300, 150, 350. The largest ones were 460, with I think 17 or 70 facilitators in it, And so when people see it, when we have the situation, we are doing all kinds of things around, and they think that we have some kind of a list of groceries, of techniques and so on. And they're surprised that there's only one key, and it is that you have to accentuate what the people are already doing spontaneously.
You mean the body work?
So they're following their own healing intelligence. Now, sometimes we have certain ways to be doing because certain areas can approach in the best possible way. But the same thing is always that you want to accentuate what the psyche is already trying to do, and also the body is trying to do.
but it's really, I mean, this needs to be learned, right? So, so that's why in our training, the Grof Legacy training, we just, have a lot of emphasis on learning how to deal with these energies in a proper way. And it's also, you learn it also by having your own experiences and people working with you, and then you work with people in the session. So you learn it both ways. You learn what it feels like from the experience and how you can help liberate these energies if they're blocked. Usually they can, the flow is by itself, but if it gets blocked or pains are coming, then you need to do something. And also a part of the body work is a nurturing body contact, which of course has to be very, very ethically correct and clear and clean. But that's also another important part. When something was missing, that you can get when you are in this state of where it was missing, that you can get some healing, holding experiences with somebody there.
Jung came to something very close to this when he was working with clients. A lot frequently you work with dreams. Now what Freud was doing, he was trying to interpret the dreams that people had in the past. At one point he was on a train, and somebody was sitting a passenger with it, and remember a dream that he had 50 years ago, and Jung sit there, and in Freud sit there and interpret right there, And Jung said, no, let's not do this, When we have a dream, you come and you lie on the couch, and then you go back into the dream so that it continues at the time when I can watch it. So it's when you want to see it creating from that. And of course, what we did, we help it with the breathing. And then the next, when we do this, we do it with the psychedelics. But the same idea is when you have in these non-ordinary states, then the unconscious material is coming up, and what is emerged is something that's the most strong, that's the most charged, or cathexis, that's Freud was calling, and at the same time is very close to its surface. So that will automatically emerge, And so what happens actually that you start seeing this way automatically what as the material in the unconscious that is a problem, and so that it's like a symptom. They automatically start shielding these symptoms that are most available for you today. And others are also very, very important traumatic experiences, but they are still too deep. They need maybe 2 more days or more times before they emerge. But you actually made the easiest way of healing, because you're thinking of what is most problematic for the person at the time.
Well, but it's also not only traumas that emerge. I mean, it's also a very creative energy. I mean, if you do psychedelic sessions or breathwork, you could never imagine what comes up. You may think, oh, I have maybe a problem with my boss, something like that. It may show up or not, or something totally different could come. And also you can connect with your energy and your potential, and not. So I love that so much. Or you can get all kinds of insights about yourself and the world, and it's really very potent and creative process, I think.
And do you think there's a way to get bodywork into the research world that's happening now with psychedelics? Do we just need to keep talking about it?
It's very interesting, because what's coming out now is the Johns Hopkins University. They would like to do a research between holotropic breathwork and psilocybin. And what we ran into, that like in university and other places, they would not allow to touch people in that, which it's a very powerful weapon not weapon, but
Tool.
Tool for holotropic breathwork. And that was just explained how it's important for you have a good end of the experiences if you do the body work and so on, which is absolutely the best result of the experience when you do a good resolution in the last period.
Well, also the supportive body contact for somebody who's traumatized.
Finally try to create something that they can have. We will do something that would not be research, but would be like just an experiment. So that we would get some. This would be mostly in soldiers,
PTSD.
That they would come maybe 30
soldiers.
of them in a special place, and then we can do whatever we best do.
Need to do for our
And
work.
then they can compare it with psilocybin or whatever else will be happening. And that would make sense. And then hopefully if it do what we think, that they would start changing actual body work.
Well, it's absolutely essential to get that understanding, that this is a necessary tool in these processes, also with psychedelics. People need, again, there we are back again, they need to be trained to properly deal with these things. I mean, you need to learn that, but it's really essential, absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely essential. I once was we had a workshop at Esalen, and I worked with a woman, just basically encouraging to express the energy and holding her hand. And then at the end, a guy came and he said, "What have you done? Can you teach me this? I work with ayahuasca in the Amazon. I've never seen anything like this, So, it's as Stan was saying, when the session is not completed, it can be, if you know what you're doing, you can have an incredible result in 15, 20 minutes, instead people being miserable for weeks. That's really, or headaches or nausea is such a thing that you really can resolve easily with this. Or some people with chronic pain, it's, we had a woman in a workshop, she had a car accident. She was in pain for 30 years. And the doctor said, that we can't do anything for you. You have to live with it. She came to the workshop and you wouldn't believe, she was like, she was not buckled up. So she made these movements in the breathwork, falling around like in this car, and then she said, can you push here? Can you push here? Can you push whatever? So we were like simulating the places where she was hit, and she expressed everything. She came 2 times and same thing. And they said, I have to come one more time. She came one more time again. We did the body work with all these. She had all these postures, where she was like falling in the car in the accident, and she was pain-free.
Wow.
Ever since, So there's
the best clients are those that actually they tell you where you should do it, how you should do it.
But the importance is, and the difference to massage is that you express the energy. We increase the tension. We don't massage it away. We make it more intense, and we ask the person to intensify, and we give the resistance, and then encourage them to express whatever. It doesn't have to be screaming. It can be so many other things, speaking in tongues, gibberish, or crying, laughing, or animal sounds, screaming, whatever. And we don't say scream, we say express it, whatever wants to come out. You just open up yourself, and it's amazing what sounds can come out of human beings.
I've definitely done some strange things.
Isn't it so wonderful? I love it, it's so creative. So it's great,
Do you see any challenges with trying to integrate body work into, the psychedelic work now? I know there's like a lot of ethical things that have been coming up.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of weird people doing weird things. We don't encourage that. I mean, it has to be very, very clearly ethically correct, and this has to be supervised, and you know, people have best don't do it when they're alone, and so if you always should have like 2 sitters for a person, like a man and a woman, so that would help.
And in most of them we are doing in a group, so
Well,
so people see.
Breathwork.
We explain what we are doing, and people see what is happening. You know.
It's the one-to-one that needs to be, you know, supervised, and especially in the psychedelic sessions, it's great to have a man and a woman there as a male-female balance, and also for the control of what's happening. I mean, that's the worst thing, that you would be in such a state and somebody would violate your boundaries. I mean, that's just, that's a nightmare. And these things have happened, you know, and they happen. So we have to be really clear about that. And also when you do this nourishing body contact, it has to be, you have to be totally clean and clear. It's not a sexual situation or a romantic, it's just a pure energetic. You have to be like a channel, a canal for the loving divine support, and just be there, quiet, still, and not stroking people or anything, just be there, you know. It's a vulnerable situation for the person, and it needs to be handled with the greatest love, respect, and care, and ethical correctness. So that would be an incredible emphasis that we are putting there.
You start actually something very, very important, something again that cannot be helped in any other way, which is the we have the 2 different traumas, you know, different.
We just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already said that. The supportive, the one is to bring it out, and the other is to put something in there that was missing. So those are both really important.
And that means the people, you know, when they regress completely down, then you can offer help, positive help, holding, and so on. Again, in a very, very way that you were talking about, you know, this has to be very carefully done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But this is the only thing that you can to when somebody has trauma very early in pre-verbal places. There's no way you can talk it out. You can talk out a trauma of this kind. For example, people had prenatal experience, you know, they ended up into an incubator, and they don't have any touch for mother. If anything, they get
needles, injections.
Yeah, they have some needles, you know, and stuff like infusion, and so they miss something that's extremely important, which is the contact with the body, you know, and the only you can do it in a non-ordinary state of consciousness. You can hold somebody for 24 hours as an adult. It's a different kind of thing, you know. But if you do it in the deep state of consciousness, then you can transfer people amazingly that way. There's no other way to do it.
Awesome, thank you. What advice would you give to psychedelic professionals that are actively working in the field, both for shamanic and underground spaces, and also in more legal above ground spaces, like in research?
Get a good training. Learn body work. Get your own experiences, you know.
You know, if they have good shamans, I mean, people can just get training there. It's already available. It's not illegal, you know. It's another problem. And what we actually need is to create some kind of situation where people are going all over the world and finding some new psychedelic plants and so on, and bring it, you know, the way we're trying to do it in Baltimore. In the we had a system created, like where people could be bringing plants from all over the world. They would be chemically identified, and they would be astrologically. I mean, they would be pharmacologically studied, and then work with the human people, you know.
Well,
So there is this is not the what we have. These are not the only plants, you know, that are available all over the world.
and also it's good to get a training with the breath work, you know. You can learn a lot. I mean, if you know how to deal with this, the processes are similar, you know. I mean, they could even be spontaneous, or I mean, certainly you get with psychedelics, you get more visual and it's longer, but what you could see is anything you can see in the breath work. So if you learn how, you know, how to deal with this by breathwork, good breathwork training, like in our training, once we can do something because of this COVID, people, it's an easy step to be a psychedelic sitter, even, you know, or starting to do psychedelics yourself. You have to experience them yourself, so you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that's very, very clear. And then, but then when you know how to deal with breath work and the body work and everything, then you can deal with psychedelic sessions, you know. So it's a very small step to move over to that area.
You know, we had actually many people in our training over the years who actually started systematically having experiences in sessions that followed the shamanic kind of archetypes, and they sooner or later ended up actually working with shamans and actually introducing some shamanic techniques in their own work as psychologists. You know, they were in their rooms, in their own clients, using some of the principles of shaman. But they learned it from holotropic breathwork without us training them, you know, or teaching them.
Oh, interesting.
Just sort of spontaneously emerge out of it.
It's extraordinary. And yeah, like the breathwork training seems so ideal as training for psychedelics. And we regularly talk about how, Stan, you made the decision, it seems like, for 2 years minimum training so that people can get into their own process a little bit first, maybe, as opposed to a 2-week training on MDMA and then, start it up. Not to minimize Maps's work, but I think the training isn't in depth enough.
The practical part is really important, to really learn these things. I mean, the theory is great, but the hands-on experience and the own experiences is that's what's the real teaching, and the theory, of course. The way of the psychonaut is just a fantastic encyclopedia. I think it's a must to study, and when you're interested in these states.
Absolutely.
I think what's happening, with holotropic states of consciousness, and also the way I would see for psychedelics, is that you respond, you honor sort of spirituality, and offer them some ways of experiencing spiritual experiences. But we don't force them to move in a different direction, whether it should be Buddhist or Christian or Islam, so on. And then they spontaneously emerge from these things in the sessions without any guidance in that. Because some people, as I mentioned, to shamans, other people move to Tantra, other people move in direction of
Meditation or Buddhism, or what do you mean?
Yeah, and also astrology. It's the other one. I'm sorry.
Probably like paganism, Western esoteric tradition, things like that.
Alchemy.
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 Yeah.
Alchemy.
I've started dabbling. It's fascinating. Yeah.
And including fantastic images. I just 2 days ago we got the pictures of an Italian lady
Painter. She was from her experiences, right?
Tata Samani, and she amazing, papers like this, and a lot of them she had from Kundalini, and a lot of it are from alchemy, very much like that, the tantric and stuff like that. Amazing.
Yeah, it can, people can become artists who haven't been before. It can awaken these abilities, or you could healing qualities, or people can maybe get some psychic experiences, whatever, or you just become yourself more, whoever you are and whoever you're supposed to be. I think that's what it's about.
Adventure of self-discovery. Yeah. So I want to thank you both for spending so much time with us, and eternally grateful, Stan.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Yeah,
when we Brigitte and I, when we reconnected, I say, there's such a different age between us. If I get to the point when I start sort of, losing my brain, be sure that you don't let you sort of get on the stage anyway. Just sort of
get me off the stage.
And then it happens, and people say, I want to eat whatever you say,
Yeah, people want to see you and hear you.
So anyway.
Well, but I don't think you should be taken off the stage. You just do something different together, and then I think it's still people be happy to see and hear Stan.
Definitely.
I said we had a relative, in our family who was a brilliant violinist. And actually, my mother was working with him for a while. She's a concert pianist, and he traveled around the world, and he went somewhere to Indonesia, and there was a very bad climate, and so he lost his
Stradivarius going bad, molded.
It fell apart, molded. And then he also developed an infects that sort of started infecting your brain. And when he realized that, he put the violin down and never wanted to touch it again, not even for fun, and he just didn't want to be a bad copy, of his own. So this was actually I was talking specifically about it when we started going around. I said, please, just once you see that, get me out of that.
Well, I certainly on the launch of the film, it was clear that you should not read your text. That was my veto there, because that would have ended in a mess. But I think, I think you're just different, but you are the same, but you're different, and I think you can still transport your being, and everything else is written.
But it's very interesting. I know that I haven't lost anything from the 800 pages in document. I can present it anywhere, but it's going to be slowly. It's not going to come out.
The problem is in the cables. It's but not in the content. So it's a, that's a transportation problem, but not everything's there. I would not let you out there here if you were not okay. I wouldn't allow that.
Anyway,
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
thank you
both.
so much. Yeah. It's your work has been the inspiration to really kind of start our platform over here, and it's been a huge part of our work. So I just feel really honored and humbled to be able to do this. So thank you.
And say hello to Gibson's.
Absolutely.
We spent a lot of good time together.
And there you have it, Dr. Stanislav Grof and Brigitte Grof. Thank you both.
Yes,
I'm sure a wild ride for you, wild ride for us. Being in the moment with that was something else. I'm just so eternally grateful. So, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind. I remember when I was 20 or so, 21, I think maybe it was, when I first stumbled across Stan's work and reading through LSD Doorway to the Numinous and just thinking like, I have to study. I have to consume everything this person is writing. It just resonated so much with me, and just thinking, I need to study this. This is going to be my life. Mm-hmm. And it's just so crazy to just remembering back to that summer day reading LSD psychotherapy or LSD Doorway to the Numinous, and just thinking, wow, I really want to study with this guy. And so cool. I think the first introduction where that started to come to light was when I ended up presenting my capstone project during my undergrad, and we were able to get Stan to do some Q&A for that, which was like, whoa, that's really cool. And coming back around here on the podcast, so it's pretty wild in my mind.
Yeah. I started reading Stan in 2001, and just in my freshman dorm room, like rural New Hampshire, and thinking, I believe this is my career. I have no doubt that this is the most interesting thing I could be involved in the world. And that's kind of what Stan's point was when he encountered LSD. It's like, I can't imagine anything else being this much, this interesting. So this is it. And it's an infectious thing, quite the meme. Yeah. Meme as a mind virus. It's fascinating. I'm really thankful to the Gibsons for kind of supporting me through this whole learning process about Stan, and just like very regular and engaging discussions about the work of Stan Grof. Fascinating and very
definitely wouldn't be here without them to some degree as well.
Right. So I guess that's it for now. So again, thank you, Synergetic Press. Check out the book Psyche Unbound. Thank you to Stan and Brigitte. Thank you to Lenny and Elizabeth Gibson for supporting us through this whole process. And check out Dream Shadow. And check out the what is it called? Grof Legacy Training.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Grof Legacy Breathwork is, I believe, what they teach now.
Grof Breathwork. Yeah, if you just type in Google Grof Legacy Training, you should be able to get the link there.
And someday we'll be able to tell that whole story. But until then, check out the books, read the books, get some breathwork in if you can. And all right. Thank you, Kyle, and let's do it again next episode. Take care, everybody.